The new Dell Alienware Aurora R13 and R14 are a substantial upgrade from the R12 and previous. I do have a video linked in the description below that is a comprehensive breakdown of all the new features. But today in the gamer heaven, we're going to be unboxing and doing the initial setup of that R14 Dark Side of the Moon edition over my shoulder. Sporting 87% better cooling, 50% larger internal volume, better quantity and quality of fans, a greatly improved motherboard, and an all-new suite of I/O ports and plugs to keep this thing absolutely future-proof. Well, as future-proof as a PC can be. Should be good for a couple of weeks at least. The speed of technology. And this 43-pound box is the latest and greatest Alienware Aurora desktop, the R14. This version is spec'd out as a modest mid to high-end PC sporting a Ryzen 7 5800, 16GB of DDR5 RAM, an NVIDIA RTX 3070 leading up the graphics department, a 512GB solid-state drive for boot and games, and a 1TB mechanical hard drive for bulk storage. If you've been around the channel a while, you've seen me comprehensively test, review, customize, and even case swap an Alienware R11, and in the near future we will also be getting an R13 with a 3090, 64GB of DDR5 RAM, a 12th generation water-cooled i9, and more NVMe storage than you know what to do with. I wanted to get an Alienware Aurora in the gamer heaven with this specific build or spec sheet that shows that even the mid to high-end PCs, so not the $4,000+ flagships and not the base or entry-level models sporting things like a 3060 and an i5, are great price to performance or bang for buck. In fact, this is the majority of PCs that Alienware is currently selling. Without further ado, let's break into this box. Not a break-in, I purchased this thing fair and square. As you can see, the box is a little bit scraped up, however it is not damaged whatsoever, and I have inspected the product prior to this video to make sure that it was in good condition. You do have two pieces of tape that will need to be sliced with a katana, machete, razor blade, standard box cutter will do just fine. Flipping down the foreskin of the box, you will see that this thing is incredibly well packaged for its journey to you. You are going to have your accessories in this box on top. Now you do have a ton of foam in here holding the case or chassis as Dell/Alienware likes to call it. So you know that this bad boy is not going to be damaged, which is important because we did opt for the acrylic side panel, which will show off the guts or internals, and more importantly than that, the newly redesigned RGB, because we all know RGB adds frames per second to your rig and inches to your nose. You have a little bit of Alienware branding down here. If you're a die-hard fanboy, you can go ahead and repurpose this into a bandana or headband. Show the haters what kind of PC you have in your game room. Don't be looking at my tuchus. I'm gonna go ahead and lift this thing out. Don't be looking back there. So in this box, you are going to have some accessories that I generally opt out of if you are building this on their website, which is only going to save you $7 on the keyboard, and I believe it's $3 on the mouse, but you will never touch these because they are not gaming peripherals. They are just some cheap parts bin specials. You are going to have your power cable, the mouse, which I'm not even going to open, but I will show it to you. When I did the comprehensive unboxing and review of my R11, I did open up the keyboard and mouse, but you are not missing anything. Here, I'll give you a little peek. Look at that beauty. That's a gamer's keyboard. You have your warranty, safety, and regulatory information telling you not to choke anybody out with the power cable, not to use this thing as a cannonball, which you very well could. It's about 40 pounds. You have a little card with the history, nostalgia, and legacy of the Alienware PCs, all of their socials, and a little logo down there telling you, hey, this is printed in Mexico. Just the card, or was the PC built in Mexico? I think we're talking about just the card here. Then you have a quick start guide over here with their socials again. They want to make sure that you give them a follow, a like, and a sub. Quick start guide for a PC because it's a pre-built. Make sure it's plugged in. Hit the power button on the front of the tower. Just because some of these come water-cooled doesn't mean you need to take a cup of H2O and pour it over the top of your tower. They don't like that. I don't know how to read, so I'm going to put all that back in there. Now, I didn't know somehow my camera got bumped down to 1080p HD. However, we bumped that right back up to native 4K. Ultra HD, because this is an Ultra PC. That was corny. All right, let's go ahead and peel this bad girl like a banana. Oh, that's ASMR. So there was not this much protective film over my R11, that is for sure. There is literally about 13 or 14 separate sections. Granted, this is about 50% larger of a case or chassis. I will be overlaying some B-roll from the Alienware YouTube channel, showing a side-by-side comparison with the R11. But man, this is a lot of protective film. Oh, this is the satisfying one right here. You grab it right by the AMD Ryzen tab. Okay, not what I thought. I thought it was gonna be, oh, this is what I thought it was gonna be. Here we go. Gorgeous. So I absolutely love the new aesthetics, the new design, the new cosmetic appearance of the R13 and 14. The 13 is the Intel version and the 14 is the AMD. However, there are a couple of other subtle differences. I will have linked in the description below a video where I did a complete overview of both versions and the differences. Got to be smarter than the packaging. So they do recommend that you pull it from this tab here because there are several slits right here. So if you're pulling it from the top, it's just going to rip each one of these individual sections. So you can get it in one piece in essence if you grab it from the bottom and pull up, which I was not smart enough to do earlier. Bam. So that is very good looking. I am not a huge fan of the dark side of the moon, which is this carbon or flat matte black. I definitely do prefer the lunar light, which is the white version. I think it looks a lot nicer, more clean, especially because all of the black accents, it's almost two-tone, like Stormtrooper armor, which is kind of the theme here. But honestly, this will probably go with a lot more people's setups or rooms. So I do see a lot of the dark side of the moon versions being sold. Dell is touting on the Alienware website that these have 87% better cooling in comparison to previous models, such as the R11, which I own back here. And this is absolutely correct. However, I do want to talk about why exactly this is. Over my shoulder is an Alienware R11, which I have done a ton of content on in this channel, including basically every cooling modification under the sun. And eventually that all culminated by me doing a full case swap. That is an hour and 15-minute long video. It will be linked in the description below if you are an owner of an R9 through R12, as they will substantially benefit from a case swap. Now, my personal opinion as an Alienware owner and PC tester, I would not case swap this version, the R13 or R14, unless it's strictly for a cosmetic reason. You think this thing is dog-ass ugly and you only bought one of them to get your hands on a 3090 graphics card or a 12th generation Intel CPU or the motherboard that supports DDR5 RAM, or basically you just want the internal components but you don't like the way she looks. You can give her a little facelift, get her a new little push-up brassiere, and do a case swap. From a performance standpoint, you simply do not need to case swap these anymore. Let me show you why. First of all, as you can see from this acrylic side panel looking into the interior, she has 50% more interior volume, which means less restricted airflow, and also it's easier to work on when you're swapping out components. Next up, they did away with that stupid PSU or power supply unit that was on a metal hinge mechanism that swiveled out and was right up against the CPU cooler, so God forbid you went the air-cooled CPU method. For example, this one has an air-cooled CPU, as you can see, but it's not as detrimental because there is a lot of surface area, as were in the previous generations. Gamer Nexus did a very good video where he pointed out that PSU is literally less than an inch right on top of the CPU cooler. So it's basically just blowing hot air right back into the CPU. So that's the second reason for the improved cooling, is it now has the power supply unit down here at the bottom. Next up, this now comes with sufficient cooling. 2 120mm intake fans and up to 2 120mm exhaust fans. It does appear in this model as if there is only one in the rear of the case. But the next and final reason, and the most substantial for this huge jump in performance and cooling performance, 87%, is the fact that this is now a semi-open air case or chassis. Let me show you what I mean. On the front here, you can see there is actually about a 1/2 or 3/4 inch gap around this acrylic panel with a little bit of mesh venting behind that, and that lets airflow directly in here, sucking in through these two intake fans. Then that cool intake air travels through a 50% larger interior, and as we all know, heat rises, it is ejected through these mesh ports on the back. And as you can see, far better venting back here, as well as around the I/O ports or plugs for the GPU. Down here by the power supply, even more venting and ventilation. So if you take the water-cooled route for the CPU over air cooling, which I do recommend you do because you don't need to invest or upgrade later by buying a third-party AIO or all-in-one cooler, this will also contribute to the new cooling, as they have substantially redesigned and basically use an all-new water cooler called Cryotech, which has a substantially larger radiator. The pump is also more efficient and pushes more water, and overall it runs cooler and keeps your CPU cooler. Oh yeah, and it's got some hot-ass addressable RGB on it. The Alienware R13 that we will be getting in the shop in the near future is going to have a water-cooled i9, so we can tinker with that. I don't know what I'm doing with my hand. Jazz hands, I guess. So all these combine to make an 87% better cooling experience. to where now you can case swap if you're sick of looking at her every day. She's got that ugly mug, but you don't need to case swap because she doesn't perform well in the sack of gaming and video editing or productivity that you do with your PC. So we're going to go ahead and remove that acrylic side panel to take a look at the interior, the components, the guts, if you will. And this is another very welcome feature. One of the many small changes is the fact that this little screw now stays in place. So you unscrew this screw and then pull back on this lever and it pops off the side panel. And that is notably easier than the R9 through R12, where you had to remove a screw that usually fell on the floor, then pop up 2 levers, then wiggle the panel off, and then swivel that power supply unit out of the way. This is literally just unscrew and pull, and it pops right out. That was a beautiful sound for the microphone. As for ports, plugs, and I/O, you're in no shortage of places to shove things. On the front, you've got 3 USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A's, as well as a 3.5mm headphone jack, and a very welcome addition, a USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type C, which is a great option for VR headsets as it can transfer data as quick as 10 gigabytes per second, and if you're leaving something plugged in like a controller, much like a console, this has power share, so even when you're in standby, your PC is still charging your plugged-in devices. As for the rump or tuchus, you have 2 USB 2.0 ports that can provide data transfer up to 480 megabytes per second, so plug your slower devices in here. Then you have a USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type C port, which can transfer data up to 10 gigabytes per second. Then right under that, you have a 2.2 Type C, which can transfer data up to a blazing fast 20 gigabytes per second. Then below those, you have 2 more USB 2.0 ports, these ones with smart power, which allows you to wake up your PC from a full standby mode by pressing on the keyboard, mouse, whatever peripheral you have plugged in. For you console players, think of this like turning on your console by powering on the controller. Then you have 2 USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A's, which will get you up to 5 gigabytes of data transfer. And as for the Ethernet port, you have an RJ45 Killer E3100, which instead of 1 gigabyte per second, like we saw with the R12 and prior, with the R13 and R14, you are getting 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, which is lightning fast. Kind of overkill because most internet service providers cap out at a gig, even if you are on fiber. However, this feature, as well as smart power, as well as the pair of 2x2 USB-C ports, one on the front, one on the back, makes the I/O suite of this PC very future-proof. Taking a look at the interior of the R14, had to make sure my microphone was out of the frame here so you can actually see what I'm focusing on here. As you can see, a ton more surface volume. Now, there is a lot of blank or empty space up here, and that is because you can put another hard drive caddy right here, or even add another 120mm fan. If I were keeping this unit and this was my personal daily driver, I would absolutely add another 120mm fan up here, or go ahead and ditch this air-cooled CPU, just get it right out of here, and get an AIO or all-in-one water cooler right up top here. These are approved for, I can't think of the millimeter, but my editor Kevin will pop it in post-editing. At least a 240mm, if not a 360. There is plenty of space in the top. If you don't have a mechanical hard drive up there, you can pretty much shove damn near any AIO you want up there. And as far as adding, removing, or changing out the existing fans, it is now much easier. In fact, Dell actually supports it, as we're now, instead of having to install a splitter cable, they actually have enough ports and plugs for individual fans, so you can control the speed and fan curve from ACC, which is Alienware Command Center, which is their software suite, or MSI Afterburner, or whatever program you choose. This flips up for maintenance, and there is also some RGB trim down here, which will illuminate. If you get the water-cooled CPU version, which I do recommend that you do, the next version of this PC we have in Gamer Heaven will have that option. That is addressable through the new RGB suite, which is awesome because the AIO that came on my R11 is solid black with no RGB lighting. Now, I do still recommend that you take the water-cooled route if you are building one of these PCs on their website, or you're purchasing one lightly used on Dell Outlet, or even buying one on Amazon. However, a lot of people are going to go for this cheaper air-cooled version, and it's not that big of a deal anymore because, again, that power supply unit isn't just blasting hot air right back into your CPU. It can actually expel outward and then out these vents in the top. This does have a 3070 on board, which I am excited to benchmark because I've had my hands on a 3060, a 3080, which is the PC back here, and then a 3080 Ti. Kevin overlay some B-roll of that, but it'll be very nice to see what the 37 can do during benchmarks, gaming, and video editing in this case. As you can see, there's an extra 6-pin right here, just kind of hovering around. Not the cleanest thing in the world. I wish this was basically routed down here, but hey, cable management wise, it actually looks a lot nicer than the previous R lineup. As you can see, you have a very compact PSU or power supply unit down here, but again, the wires are tucked down here nicely. As before, everything just looked kind of shoved in there. You do have a hard drive caddy down here as well. Had a little SATA cable hung up there. This looks like a 2.5-inch hard drive caddy for an SSD. You do have a 3.5-inch mechanical hard drive up here, which again, I would only use a mechanical hard drive for bulk storage. Obviously, any programs that you need to be launching quickly, such as games, definitely your operating system, you want to put that at least on an SSD or solid state drive or an NVMe M.2 drive, which this one does have right here. It was shown on the Amazon landing page where I purchased this that it just had an SSD. It didn't say anywhere that it was an NVMe, but sure enough, it is an M.2 NVMe right there, and that is a 512 gig. Removing the GPU brace is different in this model, and I actually like this quite a darn bit. Also, there's a little catch right here where you can get the cable ran into, just like that. Oop, almost got all of it. There we go. You put the whole cable bundle in there. But removing this brace for your GPU, there's a lever you press up on and then pull out. Comes right out like that. That is a much better design, and I hope that the 3080 and 3090 also have this. As you can see, all the fans are in their own fan headers, which are labeled. So if you want to put your own fans with lighting and control them independently, you can do that. A lot of people are curious as to what this is. Pull back on this lever. Slides right out, and this is basically a duct that focuses air from the second 120mm intake fan directly onto the GPU, as where you can run it like this, but the air that's gushing in through here, gushing, that's a fun word, is just going to be covering everything, as where if you run this, all that airflow is getting directed into the GPU, and I would recommend using this. I really like how easy everything is. It just has a little hinge mechanism, slides right on in there. I like that. So the GPU is actually held in by 3 places, 3 points of contact, so you're not going to get any GPU sag. It's held on by this brace here, which is actually the ductwork for your fan. Then you have this middle brace, which is really going to substantially limit your GPU sag. And then also this back here as well. There we go. Oh, cute. A little 3070 action. So I'm not going to be fully disassembling or tearing down this GPU, but you can get an idea of what the 3070 inside of the Alienware / Dell PCs looks like. It is very similar, actually, nay, I would say identical to the 3080 that I did disassemble on this channel. That video will be linked in the description below, and I did apply some extra thermal pads and paste in that video. This is an all-new motherboard design with some substantial upgrades. Everything has quick release tabs, as you saw from all these braces and mounts. It has room and mounting support for a lot of AIOs. The cooling, such as the capacitors and heat sinks, look a lot better. And then a very unique proprietary ATX plug to power up the motherboard. This is pretty much unlike anything you're going to get in a non-pre-built PC. Yeah, that's proprietary. That's an Alienware plug for sure. You have 3 SATA plugs up here for storage solutions, SSDs, and hard drives. There is 4 RAM slots, and as you can see, there is only 1 stick currently installed. I'll pop that out now. It is HyperX Fury, which does have a nice metal heatsink, so it will withstand a certain degree of overclocking. And this is DDR4 RAM, not 5, like on the Intel R13. The AMD R14 is still on DDR4 RAM, and it's also on the CPU version that was in the R10, as opposed to the R13, which is using some newer components. There's a little warning down here that says the light bar is not a handle. I'm sure they put that on there because somebody's gonna think, oh yeah, I can just flip this up here and use it as a handle. It feels very cheap and chintzy and plasticky, so I would not even feel secure grabbing this. Supported here in the front and then supported here in the middle. I love this 3 point of contact GPU support system. I think it's great. And the fact that everything's quick release with these little levers is fantastic as well. That makes sense. And it looks like the same support system will work for some of the bigger GPUs, such as the 3080 and 3090, because it actually extends to different levels. So for this one, as you can see, there's a lot of gap here, but you push it in a little bit further because it's a 3070, which is one of the smaller cards. Now, one thing I do not like, and this is a missed opportunity by Alienware in my opinion, is this little wedge design right here. Yes, it looks cool, cosmetically pleasing, that it's cocked at an angle. However, this is additional space that could have been used to go above the 50% extra internal volume. This is just dead space down here. As you can see, the PSUs right here, but all this is just part of the case or chassis. So they could have had this more level and done without all this dead space down here, and that would have increased the surface volume even further. Also on this side, which is the right side of the PC, if you are looking at it from the front, this does have a cable management tray. I'll overlay some B-roll of what that looks like. Now, I thought you'd be able to easily remove this, but you simply cannot. I even Googled how to remove this side panel, and it's not as simple as the acrylic side panel that shows all the goodies. It should, in essence, just pop right off. I couldn't find a YouTube tutorial or anything in the forums about how to get this side panel off. So getting real close to this here, there's a little bit of silver flake in this paint job here. Not a huge fan of the dark side of the moon. I'm a bigger fan of the lunar light, but it's not ugly, that's for sure. And it says Aurora. Now, getting the acrylic side panel back on is pretty doggone easy. You're going to put the bottom in first, and then simply push in on the top. Super easy. So again, removal, bam. Installation, bam. Oh, also another cool thing that I just noticed, that screw on the back is not only a Phillips head, but also a flathead. How can it be both? I'll show you a picture right now. So I'm pretty excited about this whole secondary setup, not just the PC itself, but all the peripherals, because these are ones that have been sitting around in my closet for a while that I haven't knocked the dust off and used in quite some time. The Viotech 32-inch monitor, which was my daily driver for damn near 2.5 years. The K-Move mechanical keyboard with Gateron switches. The Razer Nari Ultimates, which again were my daily for about 2.5 years before I upgraded. The Razer Viper Mini, an awesome mouse that I customized on this channel. So it'll be very nice to use this setup and get away from my usual daily setup that I use all the time. So different chair, different peripherals, different PC. Initial start, let's get it. Probably help if I plugged it in underneath the desk. Also, let's plug in these headphones. They have a little USB dongle on the bottom that plugs into the front of your tower, or back, whatever, but it's a small dongle, so we'll just plug it in the front here. Let's give this goose another gander. Oh. Ooh. No sparks or anything. Okay, she shut right down immediately. However, don't panic. That happens on initial startup with these Alienware desktops. Trust me, it happened on my R11 as well. It'll start up, shut completely down, then start right back up. That RGB looks so much better than the previous generation. Like leagues. Let me show you what I mean. Oh, interesting. This is actually my first experience with Windows 11, so this will be fun as well. These things are dirty. These are huge on my head, too. I have a tiny little peanut head, and these things look like a couple of deployed airbags on the side of my noggin. By the way, if you're sick of being naked, check out Into the AM for the best graphic tees. I do have a 10% discount code down there in the description below. And if you're sick of scorching your corneas with harmful blue light because you stare at a monitor or TV all day, check out Gamer Advantage and get an advantage as a gamer. That's not their slogan or catchphrase, but I think it should be. I think their official catchphrase is slap ass and stack cash. All right, this is going to be hooked up to Wi-Fi. Look away, you don't need to see my password. Your PC will restart before you continue. Well, yeah, it's the initial setup, sweetheart. A little bit of spritz or gamer goo on this monitor. I'm gonna go ahead and Windex her off real quick. Did I say Windex? I got something far better. I'm not sponsored by this company or anything, but this is by far the best window cleaner. When I had an automotive detailing company, this is what I always used. Granted, I don't recommend doing what I just did by spraying it directly on the monitor. You want to spray the rag, your microfiber first. This is just blatantly stupid, but it's okay. This stuff is ammonia and bleach free, so you'll have no issues staining or damaging your monitor. And just give her a wipe down. She's a dirty girl, she needs it. By being a Windows customer, you sell your soul. Yes, accept. Let's call her what she is. R14. No spaces. Okay? Do it to it. This is a nice typing keyboard and she glides smooth. A little small because I'm used to a full size that has media controls up here on the right. This doesn't even have the F for function buttons. It's a 60% or 65. I think this is a 60%er. So every time I set up a new PC, I turn all of these off because there simply is no reason. Location services, well, it's not a phone or tablet, so it's not a mobile device. You're not going anywhere with this. It's not a laptop. No need for it. Find my device. If this is missing in my house, we have an issue. It's huge. It's 40 pounds. I'm not losing this underneath the couch. Diagnostic data. Well, the first sentence, send info about the websites you browse and how you use apps and features. No thanks. Inking and typing. I'm not an octopus. I'm not going to be inking anywhere. No. Tailored experiences. I know how I want to use my PC. Windows doesn't need to know that. No. Advertising ID. You're going to get advertised to no matter what. However, this is going to limit the amount of third parties that get your information. No. Same thing with this page here. It's going to try and interpret what applications you want. For example, if you say you like entertainment, it might install Disney Plus and TikTok. If you say you like gaming, they're going to make sure you have a bunch of launchers that you probably aren't going to use. So what I like to do is go down here to skip. I'll install the programs that I want individually. Now, Microsoft OneDrive I do use if it's going to be my personal laptop or desktop. However, since this is just a test unit for the next month or so, we are going to skip this and only save files to this PC. Access granted. Decline. Because if you get a trial, what's going to happen is when the trial expires and you forget about it, you're going to start getting charged. And on the preference page, the first box says I read and agree with Dell's policies. The second one is notify me when updates are available for my Alienware software. And the third one is send this PC's service tag, serial number to Alienware to enhance your support experience. Let's leave them all unchecked. Interesting. So you don't even have to agree with Dell's terms of service. Okay, it says it'll be up and running sometime between my retirement and my death. I'm not going to get too in the weeds with Windows 11 versus Windows 10. Again, I will do a comprehensive review of that operating system once I've had more hands-on time with it, but I will say it is very Apple-like. This is very similar to Mac OS in many means. Cosmetically, just the icons, having this dock right here in the middle. Ooh, she's making a little noise. After all, it does have three 120mm fans, a GPU with two bottom-facing fans, and then a CPU fan as well, and then a CPU air cooler fan as well, so you're going to hear some noise off it. It's not tremendously loud, and it is quieter than the R11 when that's spooled up. It's definitely settled back down now, but it was making some noise. So what's next for the R14, which you can see subtly glowing over my shoulder? I have several videos coming out around this PC in the very near future, including what to do when you first get an Alienware desktop or laptop. After you've done your initial setup by plugging it into the wall and hitting that Alienware power button, what do you do now? Things like uninstalling bloatware and how to optimize an ACC or Alienware command center, how to upgrade any parts or components that you may have skimped on during the building process, how to activate the warranty and customer support from Alienware, and several more tips and tricks to make sure you have a pleasant experience owning your Alienware Aurora. For all things Alienware, keep it locked right here at Gamer Heaven, and me and the R14 will see you tomorrow. Peace. If you enjoyed the video, liking it helps it to get seen by more gamers. This information will reach and assist them as well, which in turn helps me grow this little channel, which I do greatly appreciate. Subscribe for more content like this. I cover news in the gaming community and industry, tutorials helping you get set up streaming and YouTubing, as well as honest gaming product reviews, keyboards, mice, headsets, controllers, mics, chairs, etc. There are some hefty exclusive discount codes found only in the description of my videos and only for the audience here at Gamer Heaven. Check out Into the AM for some of the sickest looking and most comfortable cloth to ever grace my gaming giblets. If you don't want to be scorching your corneas with harmful blue light, check out Gamer Advantage, the only blue light glasses on the market that look sexy and actually work. If you're looking for a custom controller that'll blow the competition's tits back, AIM definitively has the best bang for buck or price to performance when it comes to Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch controllers. Nope, they don't do Switch, but they do gaming mice. I said doo-doo. I have links to all my other platforms and socials in the description below. If you need a quick laugh or blast of gamer adrenaline, check my short form videos out at TikTok. Follow me at Facebook Gaming, where I am a partner and upload a ton of exclusive gameplay content. To get in touch with myself and the stallions and stallionettes of Gamer Heaven, join the community Discord, and check me out at twitch.tv, where I go live every other leap year on a blue moon if it falls into an odd calendar number, and my pH balance is on point. Just kidding, starting June I'm going to be live streaming a lot. Thanks for watching. This has been AK40 Kevin hosting Gamer Heaven, and I'll see you tomorrow because I upload daily, all the time, 60% of the time, sometimes, most of the time. Peace.